Okay, today we're going to talk about some different graphical methods, mainly four different types of graphs, and when you shouldn't use them, and things to keep in mind when you do use them. Um, the main thing we're going to talk about, though, is the difference between categorical data and numerical data. So, simplest way I can put it, is that categorical data is qualitative. So you've got, things like, your colors, or, you could have brands, or any type of category that you're looking for. Numerical data is going to be things like weight, height, and so on and so forth. Things that are listed as actual numbers that mean something. So this is the main difference. And now it's very important to know that there are certain types of graphs for each type of data. Okay, um, the the main types of graphs for categorical data, you're going to see like bar charts. Okay, you're going to have, obviously they also have comparative bar charts. You'll have pie charts. Those are going to be your two big ones for categorical data. Now you could obviously do different ones, but those are the main ones. For numerical data, one that you'll see used very often um, is going to be a stem and leaf. And those are the ones we're going to talk about at least in this particular video. Okay, so I'm just going to break down what it is that you're looking to do in each situation, and some other smaller ones throughout. So for bar charts, one main thing to keep in mind is that we're looking for something called relative frequency. Okay, so this is going to be relative frequency. So an example of this is going to be, um, let's say that we measured, height amongst people. So let's say we measured height. Well, if we're measuring height amongst men and women, okay, we may say something like this. We may say like, 6 foot plus and 6 foot under. Same thing, 6 foot plus and 6 foot under. Well, if we measured this, and let's say we have different levels here, okay? Let's say we ended up measuring 100 guys, but we only got 30 women, okay? Something like this. Well, amongst the 100 men, maybe we got, I don't know, we'll say 40 over here and 60 here. Well, it looks like there's 60 men under 6 foot. But that's not really true because we have to judge this based off a relative frequency, which a relative frequency, again, is going to be relative to the number that we're polled. So if we were to look at just these raw numbers, it seems like there's a lot of guys under 6 foot. Relatively, though, we are going to be looking and see that this is just 60%, or a 0.6, and this is a 0.4. Okay? Now, for the women, let's say we had 30, let's say we had 2, again, not very many tall women, not maybe 6 foot or over. So we had 2 when we had 28. Well, if we just look at these numbers without taking into account that there's a huge difference between the 30 and the 100, we have to make sure to use our relative frequency because that's going to matter quite a bit for us. Okay? Um, Now, off the top of my head, I chose some strange numbers. Well, 1/15, so this is 0.067, So that would make this a 0.933. So like 93% of women are under 6 foot that we have here. But if we just looked at these numbers here, you would think that things were kind of weird. That's why it's important for bar charts, because they're just stacked vertically, to use relative frequency instead of anything else. And you can see that from our note sheet that we had before. Um, a chart that uses relative frequency very well is a pie chart. Okay, so a pie chart, again, you just take a big circle and you break it up into pies based off of the percentage of whatever you have. So in our previous example, now let's say we had men and women, we would have something like this would be, so we had 40%. So I'll do something like that. So this is our under 6 foot, or oops, this is over. And then we had 60% under. So this is a little easier to see right off the bat, and it's naturally designed to use relative frequency. So this is the pie charts are all about breaking it up into percentages. Now for women, obviously this was much more extreme. You had 93%. So so you had your 6.67%, and this was over. And you had your 93.3% under 6 foot. So just the difference is that both of these you can use, and I didn't necessarily set up the chart for the top one, but it's just a bar chart. But this one is, you can see that it's very, very important to have relative frequency, because the numbers alone, just the frequency of occurrences, is not key. We have to know the relative frequency against the whole. And then, let's see, we have our last one that I really want to talk about is a stem and leaf. And this one's pretty simple concept. You're going to have a certain number of digits in a column. So if we were to measure, let's say, heights or measure weights or something like that, we have, we might start with this is, we'll call this the tens place, and this is the ones place. We're going to measure weights. Well, a 7 here and a 0 here corresponds to a weight of 70 pounds. Okay? Well, if we had, let's say, 133 pounds, well, where do we put that? Well, we would have to go, and this is making 80, a 90. The 10 now, this represents 10 tens, so this is actually 100. 110, 120, and oops, that's really bad, 130. Well, this is 133 pounds, so we're going to go ahead here, and we're going to tack on a 3. So this 3 that I wrote down is a 3 with 13 tens to make a 133. We could add on all sorts of numbers after that. We can add on 108 pounds, which means we would just go to the 100 place and write in an 8. And you can continue this so on and so forth. The one nice thing about this is that you can record not only all of your data here, but you can also see the shape of it at the end if you were to look at it sideways, which, if this was about weights and this was a good judge, you might see something like that, where your data kind of scrolls along and so on and so forth. And you can kind of see how this might look. But these are just the different types of data that you might see. We'll talk more specifically about exactly how you write them down. But the main thing that I wanted to get through your heads today was that you've got two types of graphs you can use. One's for numerical and one's for categorical. Categorical are going to be your bar charts and your pie charts, and your numericals are going to be more like your stem and leaves.